Assumption number one about these negotiations: Kaiser wants us to give back a lot of what we have because almost nobody outside of Kaiser in America has it. 90% of American workers not getting pay increases. Wages are staying the same or actually being reduced. 90% of American workers do not have a defined benefit pension plan. We have defined benefit pension plans, and frankly, they are very good defined benefit pension plans. 90% of people don't have it. 97% of American workers don't have retiree medical benefits. We have them. And who better than us to do it? And when Kaiser comes and says, we want to take what EVS workers and dietary workers and lab techs and nurses and LVNs have, absolutely not. We are going to call you to a higher place, and we are going to call that place Let's Get Healthy Kaiser. And we are going to call your bluff on Thrive and Total Health and figure out how to make it work for us. Here's what I would ask you to think about. In March of every year, Kaiser distributes these things called PSP bonuses. So I heard some yes, and then I heard an oh really up here, right? And here's what we know, right? In some places, you get the full bonus. But what are the bonuses tied to? Workplace safety, attendance, are basically what drive the PSP bonuses, and it's not an even system. What I think we should think about, and I want to be perfectly clear, I think if we're going to succeed, and our goal, let me be explicit about this, our goal, our mission, our job, what members send us to do here, is keep them and make them the highest paid healthcare workers in America, bar none. That is what we are trying to accomplish. And to do that, we have to lead on how do we, address health and the healthcare system in a way that only we can do. So we have this unique thing. Bonuses are not common in union contracts. It is also something that's very unique about Kaiser. And I want to suggest to people that in these negotiations, we think about taking that bonus concept and deploying it to the concept of health, total health, or let's get healthy Kaiser. So imagine the following. Let's say when Kaiser comes and says, we want your stuff, and we say no, and then instead of the string of expletives, but here's what we're willing to do, Kaiser. Why don't we change the PSP bonus, and let's make half of the bonus dependent on how we use healthcare to get healthier. For instance, right now, we as Kaiser members, 30% of us do an annual health assessment. 30%. When Kaiser is out pitching new business, they tell potential customers, all your folks will do that, but we don't do it. Now, I know there's issues about confidentiality, and you don't want them to know this, and you don't want them to know that. I've heard all of that. But the issue is, how do we get in front of this train that is bearing down on us, threatening to take our things? And I think we have to think about, well, what if we as a coalition said, well, we're at 30%. What if in the first year of an agreement we went to 45? What if in the second year we went to 60? What if in the third year we went to 75% doing that? And if we do that, our bonus collectively, not individually and punitively, but collectively and positively is tied to it. And maybe because you say that your model produces savings, instead of a 3% bonus, we get a maximum bonus of 4% or 5% for walking the talk of being healthy. It's possible. The point is, Kaiser gets a twofer. They get, and we all know, by the way, we don't want to suffer from diabetes and obesity and depression and hypertension. Our lives are too important for that. And we know the struggles about is there a gym and is there flexibility and is there time. All of that should be addressed. I'm not saying it shouldn't. But we have to have a strategy where we get in front of them and we drive the terms of debate, and it becomes positive and not punitive. And so when Kaiser is out pitching business and they're asked, so how does that work for your workforce? Kaiser says, you know what, we have this amazing set of agreements with the Coalition of Unions. And we figured out a way to use the mechanism of union negotiations, collective bargaining, to turn something that is a really difficult problem into something that is actually a positive. And we all know about the Kaiser Value Compass: best care, most affordable, best place to work. I think we have to think about, are we prepared to say, and the healthiest workforce? Not in a way that is individually punitive. And by the way, the whole world out there, someone mentioned it earlier, if you're overweight, you pay 10% more for your health care. If you smoke, you pay 20% more. If you do this or that, you pay more. That's what's going on out there, and we need to be humble enough that we could turn in to the UAW if we're not careful. And we could turn Kaiser into General Motors if we're not careful. How do we lead on health care and health because it's the right thing to do, but also because it is the best strategy to keep and make us the highest paid workers in American health care? If we want to be the best compensated workforce, which I think we do, and we should, and we are, but I don't think we can sustain that, we have to be willing to lead on this. And I also think the last thing I'll say about it is the most valuable thing to Kaiser about this is that when they go out to pitch new business, this is how they get the next 4 million customers. And if we help by the way we lead on our own health and health care, that's incredible job security. It's incredible job security, it's incredible economic security, and that's the opportunity that I think we have. As a final point, as with everything in the union, it comes down to leadership. I will stipulate that these concepts are probably controversial, but I also would challenge anybody to think that the real job we have, ask yourself, how do I get the 45-year-old coworker of mine to retirement in 20 years with everything they have now? Because if all we do is show up at negotiations and say no, and the whole world around us is going down the toilet, I don't think that's the strategy that gets us there in 20 years. And before we are forced, like every other unionized industry in America, to make a set of terrible choices, let's get in front of this. And because of Kaiser's business strategy, and because of Kaiser's model, we can actually push them to a higher place that frankly is good for us. Total or personal health assessments, maybe that's not the right thing, and I don't want to get fixated on any one particular, but what are the 4 or 5 things that we could all accept that we think would be good for us, but would also make Kaiser a totally different company? And if we're going to do that, if we're going to make a transformation where we lead on cost and quality as the strategy to remain the highest paid workers in the healthcare industry, it's going to take leadership. Right now, we all work in unions where the leadership of the union is really about representing people day to day on the job. That's incredibly important. That needs to continue. But I think the way we protect what we have, make it as hard as possible for Kaiser to try to take what we have, is to say, you know what, we as healthcare workers are ready to lead. We are ready to consider making new positions, formal leadership positions in our coalition of unions, to make sure that we as a group are owning the responsibility for becoming healthier. Because it's good for us, it's good for Kaiser, and it's the best economic strategy going forward. And I can imagine a 3-year agreement where we tie leading and ownership and modeling the Kaiser talk on how we ourselves approach our health, and agreeing because we're going to do a set of things that we will share in the economic benefits in addition to what we will create thousands of new formal union leadership positions to do it. And then we will have something that has never before happened in the American labor movement. We will have a union that is in an industry that was ready to go one direction and where we are growing and winning and offering a chance to healthcare workers and to everybody to look at this stuff differently, and where we change the perception of the way that other Americans look at unions and look at us. Union in America today, we all know it is a dirty word. People think we're not about the common good, we are only about ourselves. And it is harder and harder to defend what you have when nobody else has it if we're not acting in a way that's in everybody's common and universal good. So sisters and brothers, I want to suggest that 2012 is the year that we take seriously this idea called Let's Get Healthy Kaiser, that we really think about how do we use this mechanism that almost no one in America has to lead on health, lead on health care, call Kaiser to a higher place, defend everything we have, but lay a foundation for 20 years to come so that everyone you know where you work who is in their 30s or 40s will get to retire with the same stuff that all of our 55 and up brothers and sisters have. That is our responsibility. That is our challenge. The question is, can we move to that as a strategy? And can we make sure that Julian and everybody else who's like him all across this country gets to benefit for a long time to come? So thanks very much.